So this is what I made, guys. My video was getting too long, so I had to stop it here and upload this part. I'll still wear it, but I've not cut the bottom part, so bear with me. When I cut the part 2 is going to be the bottom part of the dress and me wearing the dress itself. But this is what we have done so far in this particular tutorial that you're about to watch. So this is the upper part here, so we'll continue in the next part. So welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'm going to show you how to make this maxi dress. So for this video we are going to first start with our basic body. So you see my fabric is folded into 2, and then the second one is also folded into 2. If you want, you can use a princess dart, but I'm going to be using just a basic dart for this. The first thing I'm going to do is to go ahead, and so the measurement I have here is 1/2 inch marked at the top here. You will see my chalk here, and then in between from here to this point here is my half length, which is 17.5, and then you see another 1/2 inch marked at the bottom. These 2 1/2 inch that I've marked here is just for my seam allowance, one for the shoulder, one for joining the bottom part to the skirt part, right? And then the next thing I have here is 1 inch of zipper allowance, which is for the back. And then the next thing is just to go ahead and insert my shoulder measurement, which divided by 2 is going to be 8. And then after that I'm going to come down here, mark 1 inch of shoulder slope, and then insert my armhole like we always do. Basically how you're going to calculate the armhole length is round your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. Whatever you get is going to be the length you're marking here. And then I'm going to go ahead and connect it all the way to this point. Come in here, mark your neck width. So for this here, I don't want it too tight on my neck, so I think I'm going to do about 3.25, or you can just do your basic 3 inches, but I'm going to do 3.25, right? Mark it here. And then I'm also going to do 3.25 by the, guys, from this point is where all my measurements are starting at the moment, right? So first thing I marked is my neck depth, my neck width here, which is I said 3.25 is what I'm using. You can use just 3 inches. And then I'm going to come down here again, and then I'm going to do the same 3.25 here, and then I'm going to connect the 2 together like this, give it a curve all the way from here to here, right? Just for my neck. And then the next thing I'm going to do is this 1 inch of neck that I've marked here, 1 inch of shoulder slope. I'm going to connect it to this point, just like this. And then I'm also going to mark the 1/2 inch of seam allowance here for the shoulder. You see how I've marked it. And then once this is done, the next thing we are going to do is to go ahead and mark my come down here, mark your bust measurement divided by 4, whatever that is for you, mark it, include your seam allowance. Come down to the waist, your waist divided by 4, right? Mark it. But this time around you're going to add 2 inches here, 1 inch of that and 1 inch of seam allowance. And then I'm going to go ahead and connect it to the bust like this. And then after that I'm going to give it a curve here, just like this, right? So this is our basic bodice. So now let's start making the changes that we need for this top. The first thing we are going to start with is that we are going to go ahead and mark, guys, after this neck line that we have here. I went back in and reduced mine to just 3 inches here. So I did 3 inches of length here, 3.25 here of width, because I remember that I'm still going to take away seam allowance from here. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and mark my so from here, from this curve here, I'm going to go ahead and mark 2 inches width, or you can do 2.5, it depends on you. So I'm going to go ahead and do just 2 inches from this line, just from this curve of my neckline here. I'm going to do 2 inches away from it. Once you've marked these 2 inches like this or in here, the next thing we are going to do is to go ahead and come down from this point here. It depends on how low you want yours to be. Like this outer curve here, you can come down here by 2.5. You can even do 3 inches depending on how low you want it to come in, right? So let's say I decide to do 3 inches now because I want mine to come in a lot, and then I'm going to blend it into my armhole, right? So if you want, you can do just you can do 2.5, you can do just 2 inches, but I want the halter neck to come in more, so I think I might do maybe 2.5 in from the end here to this point here, and then I'm going to blend it into my armhole. It's going to look something like this. So you see, this is where I marked it here, this point here. So that is it. All I have to do now is I'm going to cut the part I'm going to be cutting for the front and the back. The part that I want to be the same for the front and back, I'm going to cut it together now so that I can be able to remove the back, the front, and then cut some things differently for it, and then separate the back and cut some things differently for it. So this is what I'm going to be cutting together for both of them. My shoulder slope, just our basic bodies. All these changes that I made by the neckline, I'm not going to do it for the back. So just cut it like you're cutting your basic. Let me cover it. So this is what we are going to be cutting for my shoulder slope now into my normal armhole, and then cut out the side. This is what I'm cutting for both the front and the back, right? Like I explained, these are the things I cut out. Our side removed, the armhole removed, the upper part of the shoulder slope removed. That's the whole thing that is supposed to be different from this. So now let me separate the two together. But in the meantime, I'm also going to cut out 1 inch for the back neckline. So let me cut out the 1 inch of back neckline for both the front and the back, so that I'll know where my shoulder, the tip of my shoulder starts. So I'm just going to mark 1 inch here after my 1/2 inch of seam allowance, 1 inch down. Connect it this way. Sorry, give it a curve like this. And then I'm going to cut it for both the front and the back. So guys, now that we've done this, I can separate the front from the back. My back is here, the front is here. So now the next cutting that we need to do for the front is to cut off the remaining. Remember, we cut off just 1 inch of neckline, but our front neckline is always 3 inches of depth, or 3.25. So depending on your neck width, sorry, the wideness of your neck, right? So I'm going to cut out this extra remaining neckline from the front, and then I'm going to go ahead now and cut this part out. So guys, first I cut off the neckline, it's out. I have just my basic here. So, and then I separated this from this. The next thing I'm going to go ahead and cut is from in here. So guys, this is it here. You see, this is what we are working with. Don't throw this out. Every other thing I've thrown it out. Just this part of the neckline, this 2 inches of neckline, and then the main bodice of our cloth, don't throw it out. And then we're also going to remember to add in our dart. So basically my dart is going to be nipple to nipple divided by 2 plus 1/2 inch. Mark it here. My dart is going to stop at least so from my shoulder to my nipple line is about, so if I place this tape back now, my shoulder to my nipple line is at 12. My dart is going to stop at 13, which is somewhere here, right? So my dart here is going to go all the way up straight, 1/2 inch on this side, 1/2 inch on this side, connect it to this point. So let me go ahead and notch it. So this is going to be my front dart, go all the way to this point, about 5 to 6 inches here. So I'm going to go ahead and dart it on both sides. Like I said, I notched it. So when I open this up now, like this, I'm going to have 2 darts, one on this side here, one on this other side. So let me pinch it out so you see. Just like this. So it's going to look something like this. 2 small darts here, about 6 inches up. This is what my dart will look like. And then the neckline is coming up, is coming in here, right? But in the meantime, just let this be. So now the next thing we are going to tackle is going to be my back panel. So let me set this aside. These are the 2 things we took away from everything that we cut in front. For the back, the same thing is what we are going to do. Come in here after you've marked your neckline. Guys, the next thing you're going to do, if you want, you can even reduce it. Instead of 1 inch, you can do 1.25. Guys, I know why I'm saying, like, try to measure and be sure that when you measure around your neck, the opening you have is enough to contain your neck, because the worst feeling is wearing your clothes and you feel like this tightness around the neck is so uncomfortable. So the next thing I'm going to do is that the back now, I'm going to go ahead and mark the same 2 inches again. So from the end here, I'm going to mark 2 inches all the way around, even up to into the shoulder. So mark 2 inches here and keep moving it. Now that I have my back panel, I've marked 2 inches again. The next thing we are going to do is, like I said before, come down from this curve here. Guys, for my own, I did 2.5, but if you want your own to be as high as her own, like the side doesn't curve in too much, just stick to 2 inches. Or even just 2 inches, 1.5 is okay. That way your halter neck will start from right from the shoulder. But I wanted mine a little lower, right? So that's why I did 2.5. So now another thing I'm going to do is the same 2 inches. I'm going to come down here on the shoulder here. In front I did 2.5. At the back I'm just going to stick with 2, right? So now I'm going to blend it into this part here again, into my armhole, just like this. So that is all I'm working with. So now I'm going to cut this part out, and then I'm going to go back in and cut this out. This is what we started out with, right? So we are going to remove this part here out, the part with the slant, and then all we are left with is just this cuff from the neckline. So this is what we are taking away from the front panel, this and then this, just like we did for the back. And then again for the back, one more change we are going to make is that apart from adding our dart, we are going to come up by the center back here by 1 inch, and then we are going to blend it into the side of this clothes, just like this, to the side in form of an angle. This will help our zip to relax better and our flare at the waist to relax better, because your back torso is shorter than the front, like the back shoulder to waist is shorter than the front. So now I'm going to go ahead and connect this here, cut this out, and then we're also going to add our dart. My dart for the back is going to stop where my armhole line is. You see where my armhole line is? So this dart here is going to go all the way to this armhole line, and then it's going to be 1/2 inch on this side, 1/2 inch on this other side, right? So this is going to be my back panel, just like this. I'm going to notch it just like we did for the front, and this is, guys, this is it here. So the back is going to overlap like this because of our zipper allowance, and then we are going to have 2 darts going up all the way to the chest line. This is the back, and then we are going to have this side here like this on this side, and then this one here just like this on this side. You see, this is our halter neck. Guys, this is what we are working with right now. I am going to go ahead now, and I folded this fabric into 2, right? Just I have 2 pieces of fabric here like this. What I did was that I went into this neckline. So we started with the front panel. You see it's on a fold, right? This is the front neckline. Went in like 2 inches in, mark the curve of the armhole, mark the curve of the side of the body. So now what I'm going to do is that from this end here, I'm going to now go ahead and remove this here. After I've marked everything that I need, which is this curve, I'm going to go ahead and mark just 2 inches in is what I will do. Or 2 inches might be too small, so I might do just 2.5 distance from here, because remember some of it is still going to go into my seam allowance. So if I still want to have that bold finish like her own, I need to make it like 2.5. So this is what I'm going to do. So just like this, I've marked it, right? So this is what I'm working with all the way into the neckline. This is it. This was the part of the neckline going in like this. So now I'm going to go ahead and mark out this. Like, let me pin it down, and as you can see, I'm cutting 2 at the same time, 1 for each side of the armhole, right? 1 for each side of the armhole, and don't mistake it, so that you know that this is the outer part, this is the inner part of my armhole, right? So now, and then this is your neckline. So let me go ahead and cut this out. So I'm going to cut on this line, cut on this lower line, and then cut the inner neckline. It's the same thing I did in front that I showed you. I also did it for the back panel. So, and guys, everything concerning this here, the neckline, the armhole, everything here, apart from the waist, we're going to be sewing it with 1/4 inch. We're trying not to tamper with too much with the seam allowances, because like we didn't have much seam allowance going in here. So every seam allowance here, I'm managing it. So 1/4 inch is what I'm going to be using here. So now what I'm going to do for the armhole is that it depends on you how you want to sew it. Let's say like you're joining it with the lining, right? So what you're going to do is, the way it is now, you're just going to, like I said, I have 2 pieces here. So one is supposed to be here, and then the other one is supposed to be right on this side here, like this. This is how it's supposed to form, right? If you're working with a lining, then all you have to do is just to take it, go to the sewing machine, fold the edges on this side here, pin it down. So you're going to first pin it down like this, so it's not moving. Like this, pin everything down. Let me pin it down. And then you're going to go to the edge like this. Take your time and sew everything neatly on a fold. Fold it in like this, tuck it in, fold it in, right? And then all you have to do is just cut out your lining. Cut out a lining, do the same on this other side. Cut out a lining that is exactly the same size of your clothes, and then put it on top of it like this, and then close up the armhole with it and turn everything over. right? Just turn over with the armhole, close up the armhole. You don't have to turn over the neckline yet, because the neckline is going to be sewn into the collar, which is this our collar that we're still going to come back to. All you have to do is, if you're working with a lining, go ahead and trace out the body of this cloth the way it is now on a lining. Fold the end and then take this piece here, sew it down to the body of your Akara fabric, right? Like this. Just fold it in like this. Make sure that it's neat, iron it down. Then take the lining that you've already cut, that is the shape of this cloth, place it on top like this. Sew close the armhole, sew close the armhole, turn it over and iron everything out. Do the same on the back. You're going to take it one side at a time. One side of this side here, you're going to take it again the same way I just said it. Pin down this part, pin it down, and then tuck in this edge like this. Take your sweet time, sew it close, sew this down so that it's neat, iron it. Get a lining that is the same shape as this here, turn it over, turn it and close just the armhole. Don't close any other thing, just this armhole part, the outer part of the armhole. Turn it over and iron it, right? So if this was your lining, now you've cut out a lining that looks exactly like this, and then all you have to do is just go ahead, sew this edges in on top of this, to sew it down with a very nice stitch. Take your lining, this is the lining that you've already cut, that is exactly the same shape as this. Place your lining on top of it, sew just the outer part of this armhole, and then take your lining, turn it in. Now you've turned over the armhole. You see what I was trying to explain? Turn over this armhole now like this, iron it back in again. So now you have your lining facing this, and you have this one already sorted out. So that's how we're going to do everything now. So I'm going to go back in and do it. But for me, I'm not going to be using lining on mine. So this is how I'm going to do it. Since I'm not using lining, I have to sew all the sides. So that means I'm going to start out with this here by using this here first. Use 1/4 of an inch, sew it down. Once I sew it down, I'll notch everything here so that it's not bulking up, and then I'm going to flip it over on top like this before I then turn over this part of it. You understand? If I'm not using lining, what I'm going to do is, instead of the way it was placed and pinned, I'm going to first turn it inside out, sew it like this, sew closed here with 1/4 of an inch, turn it over, place it back the way it was supposed to be, and then tuck in this edge here and sew it down. So guys, this is what it looks like at the moment. You see, from the neckline, right? The one for the back neckline, the ones for the front neckline. Go ahead and trace another piece of it. Use your fabric this time, don't use lining, right? Because you want it a little bit thick. So use your fabric to trace it. So if you look at it now, you see that I have 2 of these here. The initial one, you will see it has chalk, and then the one that I traced out again. These 2, I'm going to just take it like this, face each other. Like I said, we are trying to use just 1/4 of an inch here, and then I'm going to use 1/4 of an inch, go around the neckline like this, and just continue sewing it with just 1/4 of an inch like this all the way to the other side. After sewing it, I'm going to just notch it a little bit tiny, and then flip it back again and iron it like this. Flip it back again and iron it. I'll do the same at the back panel, at the back piece too. I went back to the video and saw that she also had this same color of fabric by the armhole and neckline on the waist. Sorry about that, but how you're going to do it is, hopefully you've not added your dart at this point and you've turned everything with lining, right? So all you have to do is just to go back in and cut something that is about 2 inches or 2.5. 2.5 is okay, because half an inch of it will still go into your waist, and then half an inch of it will serve as your seam allowance to join the upper part, right? You would see that I myself, I've already lost my dart. I had dart here before, I also had dart here before, but I just lost everything just so I can be able to add it and make it exactly what she has. So this is what I'm working with now. I'm just going to take it, put it like this, and make sure that it's the same length as this. So I'm going to first make a stitch here, like using half of an inch. So first I'm going to, the way I placed it now, I'm going to first go back and make a stitch like this on it, straight across like this, the way it is. Once I make that stitch, then I'm going to just turn it over down like this and iron it. No other stitch. I'm not going to top stitch it, nothing, just the way it is. You see, I even loosed it up into my side seam. Just go ahead now. You're going to just come in here, come up here by 2 inches. So your band here is 2.5. The line you're going to mark from the bottom of your cloth up is 2 inches. So now that half an inch of 2 that made this one 2.5 is where you're going to now place it. You see the straight line that I marked on my own. I'm going to just place this thing on top of it like this. Use half an inch to sew exactly on that line, so that when I flip it over now, it's going to be exactly what I need, you understand? So I'm going to do that, and then you see I also have the one that I'm going to use to do it on the side. I went ahead and lose my back dart. So once I put in all these things, now I can go back in and close up my side seam, put back my dart again on both sides, pick my dart in front, and then iron everything out, and then we'll come back and do the bottom part. So guys, this is what we're working with at the moment. You see, this is it here. So I'm going to go ahead, I've gone ahead and added my dart back. If you look from inside, you see that my dart, I've added it back. Even at the back too, I've put back my dart, closed up my side seam. So now all I have to do is just to go back now to the neckline. This was what we cut out. Like I said, you're going to cut out 2 for the back, 2 for the front, and all I did was just to join it shoulder to shoulder. Like each one, I join it at the point of the shoulder here at the back, join the one from the back, just the same way with the seam allowance that we left for the shoulder. Like I said, 1/4 of an inch is what I'm using for everything, and then I turned it over. So now I'm going to take my front neckline, fold it into 2 like this, and I'm going to notch it where the center is, notch it. And then I'm also going to take this one here, find the center wherever it is, right? And then I'm going to notch it too, just like this, just so that I know where the center is. And then I'm going to take it, find where the center for this is, like where the notch meets the notch. You see where my notch, this notch here, where it meets the other one, and then I'm going to sew it. So sew from here until wherever the end, the tip of this cloth stops, the tip of the front panel stops. I'm going to also sew from here again until wherever the tip of this side stops, using 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to turn this over towards the back. Start from the end here, the seam allowance part. Don't start from this side, because if you start from here, you don't know where you're supposed to stop or where you're supposed to start. But at least this, if you start with the end here, you already know that it's definitely going to this is supposed to reach the end of the zipper allowance. So start from here, just like this, the way it is. Use 1/4 of an inch, sew it all the way until whenever you get to the tip of the back panel like this, you stop. So whatever is left in between the front and the back, like whatever space you have now left after you sewn both the front and the back, I'm going to use bias to turn it over. You understand? Or you can even just fold it on itself and just top stitch it. It will not be that long. Or you can use bias for a cleaner and finish. Use bias to turn everything over on both sides. And then we are going to move over to the skirt parts.